We've looked at reading in the last couple of classes. We saw how we read a text in detail and the content and also critique it. We also looked at paraphrasing. It means we rewrite what's there in the text in our own words without of course changing the original meaning. Moving on, in this class we will look at writing a summary. So, what is a summary? Summary, as you know, is a condensed version of a text. Condensed in the sense it contains only the essential details and the subsidiary information, details, all these are left out. So, therefore, summary is much shorter than the original text. Very importantly, a summary should capture the basic ideas of the text. It should in fact cover all the main points of the text, and it is very important not to include our own views and comments in a summary. Some people in fact make a distinction between a true summary and an interpretative summary. So, a true summary means you capture the main points of the text and you do not include any of your own views, opinions on it. While in an interpretative summary, you include your comments as well. Most often you will see that your instructors ask you to include your comments separately, and when they say summary, they mean including only the original ideas of the text. So, when we say summary writing, here we mean true summary. It means containing only the main points of the text and no comments, opinions on it. So, what are the steps in writing a summary? So, we have seen that when you begin to write a summary, the first thing is reading the given text thoroughly. You read it for detailed understanding. So, it means you understand all the main points. You also understand the tone, attitude and purpose of the text. So, if it is an argumentative text, that means if the author is putting forward his or her views on something and is taking a clear position, so what is it? Then what is the purpose? Is it to inform, is it to persuade, and is it just to entertain? Note that when you write a summary, your summary should capture all these aspects. It should be true to the essence of the original text. It means if, say for example, the writer is talking about something and the attitude is clearly negative, so that should be reflected in your summary as well. If author is trying to persuade the readers to do something, to take a position, that again should be reflected in your summary. How do we bring these things into our summary? So, there are devices we can use, which we are going to see very soon. Then paraphrasing key points. In the last class, we looked at paraphrasing in detail. So, note here we just do not take lines from the text and include it in summary. These things have to be reworded, rephrased, so that it shows our understanding. Then we combine our notes into a piece of continuous text. So, you have identified the main points, you have observed all the intricacies, you have read between the lines. So, now the next is you put them together in a neat fashion, so that it becomes a well structured piece of writing. So, here we use conjunctions and adverbs, linkers like therefore, however, although and so on. So, very clearly, if you want to write a good summary, you can say that the following things are involved. First, a good reading, so that you understand the key points, you understand the purpose, the attitude, all those things. That is point number 1. Second, once you have identified the main points and also the details which you think are relevant and should be included, the next is paraphrasing. So, you rewrite those things in your own words. Then the third aspect is you bring in your writing skills and you put those points in a structured manner, so that it becomes a neat summary. We are going to look at summary writing in detail during this course of lecture. First, we mentioned that we use many linking words because these clearly connect different points. Note here, the points you should connect in a way that it truly reflects the organization of the points in the original text. Of course, sometimes you find that the presentation of ideas is not linear in the text you read. The writer may use back and forth techniques. However, when you are writing a summary, you can present points in a linear fashion, but you do not miss the correct links. Remember, you cannot bring in your own interpretation there, you have to be true to what the writer has already done in the original text. So, some of the linkers, some of the phrases which we can use while writing a summary, I am going to list them now. Say, for example, you are trying to be specific, you want to focus on something in particular. So, some words which you can use are some phrases as well, in particular, regarding, with respect to, in relation to, more specifically, in terms of, and so on. When you are giving an example, we use phrases like for instance, for example, this can be illustrated by, namely, such as, and so on. I have observed that some people make a very simple kind of mistake here. We have to say, for example, we spell out it in detail like FOREXAMPLE, but some people write for and then they write EG. So, note here, if you just write EG, that means for example. So, we do not write both, that is FOR for and then E dot G dot. So, that is not an appropriate way. When you are introducing parallels, you are talking about 2-3 points, you are trying to compare and contrast, say, then you can use phrases such as these: simultaneously, at the same time, equally, concurrently, and so on. When you are mentioning a common point which you think many people already know, so you can use words like traditionally, typically, conventionally, commonly, often, and so on. When you want to acknowledge something and move on to a different point, sometimes a very different one, you can use linkers such as although, even though, despite, notwithstanding, and so on. You are presenting an argument, you want to present cause effect reasoning, for example. Then you can use linkers such as therefore, hence, consequently, subsequently, as a result, accordingly, as a corollary, as a consequence, to this end, and so on. Note here, these are only some phrases which you can use. Of course, if you consult a good thesaurus, you will come across a wide variety of options, and not using the same word again and again is a good sign of writing, and therefore, it is always better to consult a thesaurus and bring in variety in your vocabulary. We will look at this aspect in detail during the course of further lectures. We also use some reporting verbs to refer to what the author is talking about in the given text. For example, we can use articulate, comment, mention, maintain, note, point out, say, state, suggest, indicate, refer, and so on. Of course, there are minute differences among these words, and they come with their own specific terms of use. So, therefore, you have to be cautious. So, for example, if the writer is going to give an example, probably you might say mention. If the writer is going to suggest some ways, some personal opinions, then the word suggest might be better. If the writer is presenting his or her own views on a topic, then you might say comment. So, depending on the nature of the text, we choose an appropriate reporting verb. Here again, a good dictionary, a good thesaurus will be very useful. Some more such reporting verbs are listed here. Let us quickly go through them. Hypothesize, predict, theorize, conceptualize, understand, demonstrate, show, convey, portray, support, substantiate, corroborate, verify, confirm, investigate, research, experiment, conduct, administer, observe, acknowledge, assert, claim, and so on. So, depending on the strength of the argument, depending on the tone of the text, we choose an appropriate reporting verb. Then we also change the sentence structure and form. Some of this we have already discussed in the previous class, where we looked at paraphrasing in detail. One important thing which I would like to draw your attention to now is referring to the author. So, you have read a text written by somebody. So, you refer to the author in the summary. So, some ways could be here I have listed. Langaker 2008 argues that grammar is meaningful. So, you can use a reporting verb and put something like this. You can use according to Langaker 2008 and so on. So, I have just listed two examples, but there are multiple ways. Okay. So, now let us look at a text and then its three summaries. We will analyze these summaries in detail and then try to understand what should go into a good summary and what things makes a summary not so good. So, here is the text. Let us read it first. Researchers in France and the United States have recently reported that baboons are able to think abstractly. It has been known for some time that chimpanzees are capable of abstract thought, but baboons are a more distant relation to mankind. In the experiment, scientists trained 2 baboons to use a personal computer and a joystick. The animals had to match computer designs which were basically the same, but had superficial differences. The baboons performed better than would be expected by chance. The researchers described their study in an article in the Journal of Experimental Psychology. This is a very short text, as you might have seen. This reports a study. So, now, what are the main points here? So, the first is researchers in France and the United States. Let us underline this. So, who did this study? So, researchers in France and United States. Okay. So, what was the principal finding? Baboons are able to think abstractly. So, this is the point. Okay. Then why they chose baboons? It is here. So, earlier chimpanzees were studied, and it is now well established that chimpanzees are capable of abstract thought, but baboons are a more distant relation to mankind. So, this is the point. They wanted to find out if baboons can also behave in the way similar to chimpanzees. Okay. Then comes the study. So, what are the details here? So, what did they do? Scientists trained 2 baboons to use a personal computer and a joystick, and then they had to match computer designs, and these designs had just superficial differences. So, not very obvious, very minimal differences. And then what was the finding? Baboons performed better than what you would expect, just by chance. Then this study, where is it reported? It is reported in the Journal of Experimental Psychology. So, these are the important things. So, what, where and when and what exactly happened. So, these questions are answered. Now, let us look at 3 summaries and then see which one is the most appropriate among them. This is summary number 1. Let us read it. Researchers in France and the United States have recently reported that baboons are able to think abstractly. In the experiment, scientists trained 2 baboons to use a personal computer and a joystick. The animals had to match computer designs which were basically the same, but had superficial differences. The baboons performed better than would be expected by chance. Of course, this version seems like it has captured the main points of the original text, but there is one serious problem. If you notice the sentences, they are taken exactly in the same fashion as they appear in the original text. Say for example, researchers in France and the United States have recently reported that baboons are able to think abstractly. This is here. So, the writer of this summary has identified the main points, but has not paraphrased them. The sentences are just lifted straight off from the original text. So, there is a problem with this version. If you see the other sentences also, they appear in the original text. So, this version we cannot accept. Moving on, let us look at the second version. An article in the Journal of Experimental Psychology reports a research study that showed that baboons can think in an abstract way, just like chimpanzees and human beings. The researchers taught baboons how to match designs on a computer lab, and baboons surprisingly did very well. Okay. So, this mentions Journal of Experimental Psychology. Yes, if you recall, that is what is mentioned in the original text as well. So, a research study on baboons, yes, and the finding is that they can think in an abstract way. Yes, that is true. Chimpanzees are mentioned in the original text, and this also mentions. So, if you recall, I am going back to this original text. So, it has been known for some time that chimpanzees are capable of this. So, this is mentioned in the original text. So, it comes here in the summary as well, and human beings. So, this I am going to circle, because do you find the word human beings here? There is actually a direct reference to chimpanzees, and there is very indirect reference to mankind, okay, maybe. So, let us say we can think about it. Okay. Then the researchers taught baboons how to match designs on a computer, and baboons surprisingly did very well. So, that is true. The experiment involved some computers and matching designs, and baboons did it, but look at the tone of this, the choice of words and what appears in the original text. So, the word here is taught, okay, but what appears in the original text? In the original text it is trained. Of course, in some contexts train and teach may be treated as synonyms, but here there is very clear difference. So, training is some specific behavior, maybe short term, some specific skills and strategies. Teaching is usually interpreted in a much broader fashion. So, there is a problem here, and then, so what exactly they did? Match designs on a computer. So, yes, but are there details about designs? So, what kind of designs? So, if you recall, I am going back to the original text, these designs had superficial differences. So, that is a very important thing. So, if there were obvious differences, probably the result would have been different. So, we do not know about it. So, this factor is very crucial here, but that has been left out here. And then look at how it ends. Baboons surprisingly did well. So, this brings in very subjective tone. Were the scientists surprised? Is that what the original text says? Yes, the baboons did well, but if you say they surprisingly did well, means scientists were not expecting, and the results were very surprising for the scientists. But let us go back to the original, and what does it say? It says baboons perform better than would be expected by chance. So, in any experiment there is always some chance factor involved. So, they did it by just luck, by just chance. So, there is always that kind of possibility, but the researchers are here very clear that. So, whatever they did, whatever the way they performed was not by chance. So, it means it clearly meant they were able to think and act upon it. So, that true essence is not captured here when you see this word surprisingly did well is a problematic part here. So, this does not capture the true essence of the original text. So, there is a problem with number 2 summary as well. Let us look at 3. According to a recent article in the Journal of Experimental Psychology, baboons are able to think in an abstract way. The researchers in France and the US trained 2 baboons to use personal computer and a joystick. Later, the baboons had to match computer designs with minimal differences. The animals performed better than would be expected by chance. So, this includes this summary mentions the source, fine, and then the main finding is here, yes. Then who are these researchers? So, France and US. So, if you see, this does not mention who conducted this study. So, some details are missing from version 2, but version 3 has this, and then this only mentions baboons. How many? It is not clear here, it is not mentioned. It clearly says 2 baboons as mentioned in the original text. So, this is fine, and this oversimplifies. It says they were taught. So, what were they taught? What were they actually trained at? So, it involved use of personal computer and a joystick. Later, the baboons had to match computer designs with minimal differences. Then the animals performed better than would be expected by chance. So, this version includes most of the important details and remains closest to the essence of the original text. So, therefore, out of 3 versions, this appears to be the most appropriate. Note here, there cannot be the perfect summary. Of course, there are subjective interpretations of the text, and these vary from person to person, and then the choice of vocabulary, how you structure them, all these factors. So, by comparing this version with the previous 2 versions, we can say that this version is the most appropriate summary. So, now from this exercise, so what have we learned? The summary we write, 1, it should include all the important points from the original text. So, important in the sense these things are absolutely crucial to understand the text. No significant detail should be left out. Then the summary should also be true to the essence, true to the attitude of the original text. Of course, while paraphrasing, we rewrite the lines, we rewrite the sentences, but it should not alter the meaning significantly. Third, the way you connect the points should clearly reflect the organization of ideas in the main text. If your connection is different, note that you might unintentionally give out a totally different interpretation. So, now we will look at a longish text, interpret it and attempt a summary. we just saw a short text and how we summarize it. Now, we will look at a detailed text. This is a text chosen from a newspaper, and this is about a project in China. So, let us read it and then attempt to summarize. On a cloudy September day in the humid central Chinese city of Jingzhou, a group of Chinese officials quietly inaugurated a new canal designed to address a growing water shortage in an area normally plagued by flooding. The bringing the Yangtze to help the Han River Canal project is needed because of a much larger project 250 km to the north that cuts the flow of the Han Yangtze tributary. About a quarter of the water in the Han will be reallocated to arid northern China in a $60 billion engineering effort that critics say will create shortages in the south. So, this is the first paragraph. So, this basically introduces the context, and author here also very clearly makes his position clear on this particular topic. So, let us look at it. So, one, what is it? So, this is related to central China. This is how the paragraph begins. What is this? This is called connect Yangtze to Han. They are rivers. And why this project? Because the river Han was drying out. Why was it drying out? There is a project in northern China which aims to take water from Han to the arid regions of northern China. Note here, writer also mentions the project cost. So, why do you think the writer mentions? It is a very clear indication that this project is a very expensive one and author is disapproving of it. Okay. And then there are also other signs which show us that author is very clearly not happy with the project and he has negative views. So, there are some clues. For example, if you look at the third line, you can see quietly inaugurated. The use of the adverb quietly kind of indicates deliberate intention to keep things low. Why? Because there are problems, and if it becomes public, there may be criticism and so on. So, that is a key word here. Then, if you look at the end of the first paragraph, critics say will create shortages in the south. So, here writer mentions some critics who are not very happy with this project. So, by just reading the first paragraph, we are already quite clear about the author's position and the project in the rest of the text. Let us go to the second paragraph. Water from the middle leg of the south-north diversion project officially begins flowing this month, a moment that will probably be marked with much greater ceremony. The project, inspired by an offhand remark by Mao Zedong that the north should borrow water from the south, is designed to alleviate chronic water shortages in the industrial north and bring additional supply to growing cities such as Beijing and Tianjin. Beijing argues that its titanic effort to redistribute water is necessary for the north, but the impact is just beginning to be felt in the south. This project from the beginning has been as controversial as the Three Gorges, says Dai King, a Chinese journalist and environmentalist who led the charge against the 1990s project, which has been plagued by environmental problems since its completion in 2006. So, we know that the writer is not very happy with this particular project and is going to present his arguments why this project is not good. The second paragraph, look at how it begins. So, water from the middle leg of the south-north diversion project begins flowing, a moment that will probably be marked with much greater ceremony. So, author is clearly indicating that this north-south diversion project has the government approval, and government is very particular about publicizing about it, in contrast to what happened in the south. This project, which is mentioned in the very beginning of the first paragraph. Now, there are details about this north-south diversion project. Arid north is already mentioned in the first paragraph. So, linking with that. So, what are problems in northern parts of China? Chronic water shortage for industries and big cities, they are growing and they need water. And this has been inspired by often remark by Mao Zedong, a leader, very popular leader in China there. Okay. The writer just does not stop here. Then if you go towards the end of the second paragraph, the writer quotes a Chinese journalist and environmentalist, and this project has very dangerous implications, and this is as controversial as Three Gorges Dam. So, a new thing comes here, Three Gorges Dam. So, you can note here that in order to very clearly show that there is strength to this argument, the writer gives details about Dai King. So, who this person is and why the views are important. So, this person has led a movement against Three Gorges Dam. So, he has been an environmentalist, and therefore, the views are important. So, that is the point here. And then also look at the year of the project, when it started and when it ended. So, 1990s it started and it ended in 2006. So, this again clearly indicates there were serious problems with this project. So, this project details are probably known to people, and using this already known fact, the writer here is arguing against the current project. The current project, the argument is going to be as problematic as Three Gorges Dam, which has already been known to create serious issues. Okay. So, this is what is there in paragraph 2. Okay. Now, we move to paragraph 3. Worrisome signs of shortage are already cropping up in central China, where cities along the mighty Yangtze were historically far more concerned about floods. The Three Gorges Dam has lower silt deposits in the river beneath it, causing some islands in the Yangtze Delta to shrink, while barge traffic has been left stranded when water levels run low. Shanghai, China's financial center, has had to fight incursions of seawater into its water supply when the Yangtze's flow slows. That could become worse with the regular diversion of 9.5 billion cubic meters a year of water from Danjiangkou Dam on the Han River, which will feed canals and pipes running 1,400 km north across two provinces to Beijing. So, now if you see the links, the writer mentions Three Gorges Dam here in paragraph 2. So, more details about it are mentioned here. So, why this project is problematic? So, writer gives several reasons, arguments. One is cities along the mighty Yangtze were actually worried about floods, means excess water, but now they are facing shortage of water. So, this is a problem, and part of it at least is caused by Three Gorges Dam. So, what are the problems here? So, islands are shrinking, barge traffic is getting stranded because there is no water, and because of no water in the river, sea water is actually contaminating drinking water supply. So, why the writer mentions this? These problems could actually become worse when this north-south diversion project is complete and the water is taken from southern regions to the northern parts. Okay, paragraph 4. The Yangtze's water is being siphoned off even as the cities, industry and agriculture along the river claim a greater share than in the past. A 2012 study by Hubei Academy of Environmental Science found the diversion project was likely to result in water levels too low for shipping along the Han, make some irrigation networks unusable and annihilate fish species that rely on seasonal flood cycles. Less water to dilute polluted waste and runoff could pose a greater risk to human health and raise the cost to cities and industry to treat the water. So, the previous paragraph talks about problems which are caused by Three Gorges Dam. These things are very clearly evident already. Now, this paragraph refers to a study. So, this is not just some people's opinion, there has actually been a study, and it predicts that the following problems can emerge because of diversion of water from the river Han. So, irrigation networks may dry, then fish species may just vanish, then water pollution may increase, and thereby the cost of treating polluted water may also increase. So, there is economic impact there as well. Okay. Now, paragraph 5. The diversion project has progressed in fits and starts, resulting in huge cost overruns. The original budget was about $20 billion and creating a complex cast of winners and losers. Among them are 250,000 villagers forced to relocate to make way for the expanded Danjiangkou reservoir. They wanted it to be done in one fell swoop, but society has changed, says Ms. Dai. Now, everyone wants to know what's in it for me. So, this paragraph now introduces several other complications, particularly on the socio-economic front. So, one, the budget, recall from the first paragraph, the budget is, as you can see, $60 billion now, but the initial estimation was just $20 billion, has increased by 3 times. So, that is one problem. Then there is displacement of people, and then people are demanding things also. So, several socio-economic problems, unexpected problems are also cropping up. Next paragraph. So, this introduces socio-economic problems, and and connects what the information which has been mentioned in the very beginning, that is inauguration of a canal in southern China. The smaller Yangtze to Han Canal shows how national authorities have had to accommodate local concerns. By replenishing water diverted from the upper Han, the 67-kilometer canal allows the lower Han to remain navigable and preserves the industrial base around Wuhan, a city of 6.5 million at the confluence of the Han and the Yangtze. But that will not resolve the problem, says Du Yan of the Institute of Geodesy and Geophysics in Wuhan. The problem of not enough water in the south will certainly crop up. An initial phase of the north-south project's middle route, designed to increase water supply to Beijing during 2008 Olympics, depleted reservoirs needed for irrigation in the impoverished countryside around the capital. This summer water from the Danjiangou Dam was used to offset a drought in Henan province, a diversion that will not be allowed once the middle leg is fully complete and the northern cities claim their full allocation. So, recall the first paragraph talks about inauguration of a small canal quietly to help rivers in the south. Why this was necessary? It is because they had to accommodate some local concern. The details are given. It is about a city, an industrial base. So, then the next question is, so will such measures help solve the problem? Writer is very clear, such problems will persist and attempts such as these are not going to be enough. An example is what happened during 2008, when some water was drawn towards Beijing. There were serious problems. It depleted reservoirs needed for irrigation, okay. And such temporary measures will also not be possible when this project is complete. So, you can clearly see that writer presents a case and then puts forth very strong argument backed up with evidence, opinions of experts, research studies to argue that these attempts are not enough and these will not address the problem and will actually increase the problem. We now come to the last paragraph. The eastern leg is less complex because it follows the existing route of the historic Grand Canal, but planners found to their dismay that the water pumped from the mouth of the Yangtze up the length of the historic Grand Canal to the port city of Tianjin was too polluted to be used once it arrived, requiring additional spending on water treatment plants. The tally of the cost and benefits of the water diversion projects already underway will determine whether Beijing presses ahead with the most expensive and controversial western leg, which would tunnel through the hard rock of the Tibetan plateau to bring water from mighty southern rivers into the upper reaches of the Yellow River. Critics say China would be wiser to raise the cost of water in places where it is in short supply, rather than engaging in massive transfers to suit political constituencies in the north. Leo Horn Pathano Thai, an environmental economist at the World Resources Institute, says China's answer to date has been engineering to increase supply. Now, the problem is national scarcity, and the solutions are better economics and governance. So, this paragraph here introduces two terms, eastern leg and western leg. So, these are related to this diversion project. So, there are already issues. So, what happened with the eastern leg? water was too polluted, the cost increased. Western leg is more controversial, more expensive because of tunneling through hard Tibetan plateau. So, there are already a lot of issues. So, this paragraph, as you can see, gives more details about the project and see already there are issues even during its implementation. So, it includes impact on environment, economic impact, and therefore, once it is completed it is going to have dangerous consequences. Then the writer ends this with a quote from an expert. China's answer to date has been engineering to increase supply to address a shortage of supply. So, if there is a shortage of some product, so just increase its production, you bring in more engineering solutions, but this is not going to work because this is scarcity at the national level. And now solutions are better economics and governance, not these engineering solutions. Here you can see writer uses this word to suit political constituencies. These attempts are massive transfers to suit political constituencies in the north. So, this again very clearly shows what the writer thinks about this project. Okay. So, these are kind of main points and the way they are linked, it is put in this table. So, this is the topic, diversion of water from rivers in southern China to arid northern China. How this text starts with inaugurating a small canal to supply water to rivers in the south because of water shortage, and this is linked with discussing a bigger project in the north and its impact. So, though the text starts with this, this is not the main focus. This is mentioned so that from there the author can go on to discuss the focus of the text, that is this project in the north and its impact. So, what is the position of the author here? Clearly the project is bad for environment, it has many socio-economic issues. So, therefore, government should concentrate on governance and good policies. Then problems with northern project, several things are mentioned, basically paras 3 to 7 like Three Gorges Dam, 2012 study, then socio-economic crisis, previous experience in Beijing, 2008 Olympics, problems with eastern and western legs, and so on. And then there is a claim here, this clearly shows the writer's position. These are just transfers to suit political constituencies in the north, and inspired by offhand remarks of Mao. So, not clearly motivated by study or something. See, that is what the position of the author. And the suggestions are increase cost of water where there is shortage, and stop engineering solutions, move to better governance and economics. So, on the basis of listing key points and establishing connections, here is a sample summary of the text. Note here the original text has about 859 words. I will read the summary. Through an ambitious and expensive engineering solution, China is diverting water from southern rivers to northern areas to address water shortage for industry and to supply water to ever growing cities such as Beijing in arid north China. This diversion project, according to Hornby 2014, this is how we refer to the author here, however, has serious implications for environment and may also lead to serious socio-economic problems, as environmentalists, journalists and research organizations have pointed out. Regarding environment, this diversion project will create problems similar to those created by Three Gorges Dam or diversion of water to Beijing during 2008 Olympics, such as shrinking of river islands, stranded barge traffic, seawater mixing with potable water, irrigation canals drying off, fish species being threatened, and increased water pollution, thus leading to increased cost to treat water, among others problems. This project also has had several socio-economic implications. Many people are being displaced and their rehabilitation has not been easy, and the project has already incurred huge expenses. Therefore, China should now concentrate on better governance and economics rather than ambitious engineering solutions to address shortage of supply. So, this sample summary is 176 words. So, an attempt has been made here to capture the main points and try to be true to the author's tone, attitude towards the subject. So, author there is very critical of the project and does not approve of it, has some other solutions. So, those things have been captured in this sample summary. So, today we looked at how we write summaries of text. When you do research, note here that reviewing previous studies is an important aspect. There, this summarizing skill will be very useful. Also, when you are presenting an argument and you want to back up your argument with the findings of previous studies, you summarize those previous studies. So, there again you need this summarizing skill. So, basically what you need to write a good summary, you need to read the given text very carefully, identify main points and note down the tone, attitude, purpose and other things, and then you rephrase the points in your own words without changing the original meaning or the original intention. Then you arrange those points in a paragraph form, clearly establishing the links. In the next class, we will look at basics of writing, how we write a paragraph. Thank you.